My name's Audrey and today I turned 30 years old. I want to tell you all about how I became a millionaire because of two very greedy people. They say what goes around comes around. I first met my husband Gavin on a work trip our office organized. We both led different departments and had never crossed paths before. The trip had lots of activities like games and sports. During a volleyball game, I got hurt and sprained my ankle. Gavin was quick to help me, carrying me to get first aid. I thought he was really kind and wanted to get to know him better. After the trip, I reached out to him and asked if he wanted to go for coffee. He said yes, and we met up at a local cafe. During our date, we talked about the trip, our interests, and our families. I realized we had a lot in common. We liked the same sports, TV shows, and hobbies. Gavin told me about his family, especially his strong bond with his mother, Meg. He mentioned, "I've always been really close to my mom. We make sure to visit each other at least twice a week." "That's nice that you're close to your mom. What about your dad?" I asked. Gavin responded, "He actually left us a few years ago, and we don't really keep in touch." "I'm sorry to hear that. Is everything okay between you two?" "It's complicated, Audrey. Let's just say things didn't work out." "What do you mean by didn't work out? He's your dad, not your boyfriend." "Yeah, it's just, he wasn't very supportive, so my mom and I decided to part ways." "Was it because of financial reasons or emotional ones?" "You know what? Let's talk about something else," Gavin interrupted. "Oh, sure, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry. I just want to get to know you better. We can change the subject," I replied. I didn't dwell on it and figured it was a sensitive topic for Gavin. I believed that as we grew closer, he would open up more about his past. In the following weeks, we continued to meet, sometimes even during work. I started having lunch with him every day. Over a few months, we became very close, and our relationship started becoming serious. I knew Gavin's birthday was approaching, so I decided to plan a surprise party for him. I asked our friends to help with organizing and creating the guest list. Since Gavin was close to his mom, Meg, I thought it would be nice to invite her too. I debated inviting his dad, considering their relationship was unclear to me, and ultimately decided against it. The day of the party arrived, and after setting up decorations and preparing food, guests started arriving, eagerly awaiting Gavin's entrance. Just before Gavin was due to arrive, I noticed a well-dressed middle-aged woman heading towards the door. She wore a fancy green evening gown and carried a designer handbag. I approached her and introduced myself. "Hello, I'm Audrey. You must be one of Gavin's close relatives. It's nice to meet you." "How do you know Gavin?" Finally, someone with manners. "I'm Meg, Gavin's mother, and yes, I'm the most important guest here. He's my son, you know." "Of course, Meg. I didn't mean to offend. Gavin speaks so highly of you. Please come in and make yourself comfortable." "Well, I should hope so. I practically raised him all by myself. I hope you've done a decent job planning this party." "I've put in a lot of effort, and our friends have been a great help too. I hope you enjoy it," I replied calmly. "We'll see about that. Just make sure you don't interfere with my time with Gavin. He's my son, after all," Meg retorted sharply. "Of course, Meg. I wouldn't want to come between you two. Gavin values his relationship with you, and I completely understand that," I reassured her. Despite my efforts to appease her, Meg didn't seem impressed. She started loudly criticizing the decorations and began insulting some of the other guests at the party. Despite Meg's behavior, I remained composed and continued to show her hospitality, hoping she would eventually approve of me. When I heard Gavin's car approaching, I went outside to greet him. The surprise party went smoothly, and Gavin was genuinely happy with the effort I had put in. We enjoyed cutting the cake and exchanging gifts. During the party, Meg insisted on being next to Gavin in all the photos, even those with just Gavin and me. She also boasted that her gift was the best and confidently predicted Gavin would love it. I was surprised when Gavin didn't intervene or stop Meg's behavior. Instead, he accommodated all her requests and ensured she was always by his side. When it was time for dinner, everyone took their seats at the dining table. Gavin stood up, thanking everyone for coming to his birthday celebration. He mentioned he had an important announcement and was glad everyone was there. Suddenly, Gavin knelt down and pulled out a ring, asking me to marry him. I was thrilled and tearfully accepted amid cheers and congratulations. However, I noticed Meg had quietly left the table. Confused, I brought it up to Gavin. "Babe, your mom left the table. Is everything all right? We should find her and get her blessings. She'll be upset if we don't." "But why do we need her blessings? It's our decision, isn't it?" "You don't understand. I'd always discuss important decisions with my mom. We're really close and I value her opinion." "I understand she's important to you, but shouldn't we make decisions together?" I gently questioned. "Of course we do, but I can't just ignore her. She means a lot to me. Can we please find her and talk to her about giving us her blessings right away?" Gavin insisted. I was worried about how dependent Gavin seemed on his mother's approval, but I loved him and wanted her acceptance. We searched the house but couldn't find her. Eventually, we discovered her sitting quietly in the backyard. We approached her to ask for her blessings, which she reluctantly gave when Gavin insisted. "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you before proposing to Audrey. It happened in the moment, and I thought it was right," Gavin explained. "Well, Gavin, you always discuss big decisions with me. I felt a bit left out this time," Meg replied with disappointment. "I know, and I didn't mean to upset you. I planned to talk to you the next day, but the surprise party changed everything," Gavin tried to explain. "I understand it was unexpected, but you should have found a way to talk to me before making such a big decision," Meg insisted. "You're right, Mom. I should have found a way. I got carried away with the excitement, and Audrey has been incredibly supportive. I wanted to show her how much she means to me. I can see how much you care for her, Gavin. Just remember to keep me in the loop, especially for important decisions." "I promise, Mom. I'll do better at keeping you informed. You're a crucial part of my life, and I want you to be part of Audrey's and my journey together." "That's all I ask, dear." Feeling uncomfortable overhearing their conversation, I decided to step away, though I knew I wasn't eavesdropping. As I turned to leave, just a few steps away, I couldn't help but hear Meg criticizing me. She said I wasn't good enough for Gavin and that I was only interested in him for his money, adding that I wasn't even beautiful enough. Despite her hurtful words, I chose to ignore them and carried on. Over the next few weeks, Gavin and I began planning our wedding. Meg didn't offer any help with the preparations but insisted on making decisions, like my wedding dress. When I expressed my desire to choose my own dress, she threw a fit. She also met with me several times to insist I pay more than half of the wedding costs, claiming I was lucky to marry Gavin and should contribute more financially. I didn't let these incidents affect me too much, hoping Meg would warm up to me after the wedding. Finally, on my wedding day, I was in my dressing room with my bridesmaids and mother, getting ready in my beautiful white gown. Everyone around me complimented how stunning I looked. I heard a knock at the door and was surprised to see Meg walk in wearing a white wedding dress. "Why are you wearing a wedding dress today?" I asked. "It's my son's wedding day, and it's the most important day for me," she replied. "I chose to wear this dress to emphasize my role as the mother of the groom." "I understand it's a big day for you, but traditionally, the bride wears white. It might overshadow Audrey," I gently pointed out. "Well, that's not my concern. Gavin is my only son, and I deserve attention on this day too," Meg insisted. "Of course, Meg, but today is primarily about celebrating Audrey and Gavin's love and commitment. It's their special day," I calmly reasoned. "I understand that, but I'm making a statement. My presence here matters as much as anyone else's," Meg asserted firmly. Though I was furious, I didn't want to create a scene and spoil the day. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, and we exchanged heartfelt vows and rings. It was an emotional moment, marking the culmination of our long-awaited journey together. During the wedding planning, I had asked Gavin to handle the guest list. I noticed his father wasn't included and asked him about it. "Gav, are you sure about not inviting your father?" I asked gently. "He abandoned us. He doesn't deserve to be part of such an important celebration," Gavin replied firmly. I wanted to persuade him otherwise, but I decided not to push the issue further to avoid upsetting him on our special day. The next few months after our wedding were filled with happiness. Gavin and I cherished every moment together and began planning to buy our own house. We had always dreamed of living together and decided that getting married was the first step toward that goal. We started looking for our dream home, spending hours every day searching for options. One day while I was at work, Gavin called me. "Hey babe, I'm sorry, but an important meeting came up. I won't be able to go house hunting with you today," he explained. "No worries, darling. It happens. Don't stress about it. I can handle it on my own," I reassured him. "Thanks for understanding. I'll make it up to you, I promise," Gavin replied. "You better. Just focus on your meeting and we'll catch up later. Love you," I said. "Love you too, babe," Gavin replied warmly. After work, I got into my car and headed to the property location. Looking at the details, I noticed it was a unit on the 10th floor of a building still under construction. When I arrived, I met with the realtor who mentioned another visitor had arrived under our name to view the property. Knowing Gavin was occupied, I was puzzled about who it could be. To my surprise, it was my mother-in-law waiting at the door, looking impatient. "Why are you here to see this property?" I asked her. "I wanted to make sure it's suitable for my son and that there's a place for me when I visit," she replied bluntly. I wasn't keen on Meg being involved, but to avoid upsetting Gavin, I let her join me. As we toured the house, Meg didn't hold back, criticizing the building's condition and dismissing the property as below her standards. By the end of the tour, I was frustrated and eager to leave. The realtor stepped away to take a call, warning us about the construction hazards. I started walking around and saw an incomplete staircase outside the house. Without noticing, Meg came up to me and suddenly kicked my right leg. I lost my balance and fell down the stairs. I couldn't move and felt soreness on my arms and head. When I looked up, I saw Meg smiling as if she had won something. Then she quickly turned and left. I was confused and unable to move for a few minutes. Eventually, I found my phone in my pocket and called for an ambulance, which arrived quickly. On the way to the hospital, I couldn't stop thinking about how Meg had tried to hurt me by pushing me down the stairs. I had always been kind to her since we met, so I felt sad and angry about her actions. At the hospital, they treated my injuries and I had to have some scans done. I tried calling Gavin several times, but he didn't answer. Eventually, the medication they gave me made me fall asleep. The next morning, I called Gavin again, and this time he answered. I told him everything that had happened between Meg and me. "You're making this up, Audrey. Are you seriously saying my own mother pushed you down the stairs?" Gavin exclaimed. "I'm not lying. I would never make something like this up. I fell because Meg kicked me. She intentionally hurt me," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You're just trying to defend yourself. My mom wouldn't hurt you for no reason," Gavin argued. "She accused you of being aggressive. I can't believe you're taking her side over mine. She pushed me down those stairs and now she's lying to protect herself. Please, stop defending her." I pleaded desperately. "I can't come to the hospital right now. Meg's in shock because of what you did, and I need to be with her," Gavin replied firmly. "You're choosing her over me after everything we've been through. You brought this on yourself. Maybe you deserve this for what you did," Gavin concluded coldly. Devastated, I started crying and ended the call. I felt lost and spent the next 2 days in grief and shock. Gradually, my injuries started to heal, and I regained my strength. My parents visited me and were shocked by the situation and Gavin's reaction. My father suggested looking into Gavin's father to uncover the truth, suspecting Gavin and Meg were hiding something. Following his advice, I hired a private investigator to locate Gavin's father, Neil, and contacted him. Initially confused about who I was, Neil eventually grasped the situation. "You know, I divorced Megan and left the house because she and Gavin were using me for my money. I'm the chairman of a big company, and Gavin wanted to steal from me," Neil revealed. "I had no idea. That's awful. I can't believe they would do something like that," I replied, shocked. "Yeah, it was a hard decision, but I couldn't let them take advantage of me anymore. I want you to know that those two are never up to any good," Neil warned. "Thank you for telling me, Neil. I believe you, and I'm grateful you're looking out for me," I expressed. "Now I have a plan to handle this situation. I need you to somehow get Gavin and Meg to visit you at the hospital tomorrow morning," Neil instructed. "Why do you want them to come here?" I asked, curious about his plan. "I need to confront them about their actions and protect you from any further harm. It's time they face the consequences of their greed," Neil explained firmly. "All right, I'll do my best to get them here, but please be careful. I don't want anything bad to happen to you," I cautioned. "I'll handle it, Audrey. Just focus on your recovery," Neil reassured me. I was skeptical and somewhat scared, to be honest. I didn't want to see either Meg or Gavin. Gavin because I couldn't bear to face a man who trusted his mother over his own wife, and who hadn't bothered to check on me in the hospital. Meg because I feared she might try to harm me again. But I knew if I wanted to expose their wrongdoing, I had to trust Neil. I called Gavin and told him I had a special gift for him and Meg as an apology for what had happened. I said I wanted them to come to the hospital to receive it, emphasizing its value. Hearing this, Gavin and Meg eagerly agreed to visit me the next morning. The next morning, Neil arrived at the hospital with flowers. I greeted him warmly and expressed my gratitude for his support. Just as we finished talking, Gavin and Meg walked in. They both froze in surprise and stared at Neil sitting calmly in a chair. "Neil, what's going on? Why are you here?" Gavin demanded. "I couldn't stand by and watch you and Gavin manipulate Audrey any longer," Neil replied calmly. "Manipulate? We haven't done anything wrong. She's the one causing trouble," Meg interjected defensively. "That's not true. Audrey has been through a lot because of both of you. It's time to put an end to this," Neil asserted firmly. "Dad, you're messing everything up. Audrey and I love each other," Gavin protested. "I divorced your mother because of what you were doing. You were trying to take advantage of me and my company. I was simply trying to protect my own future," Neil explained. "Dad, you never supported me. You know that. I wouldn't have given you anything you asked for, yet you still tried to transfer my company into your name behind my back," Gavin argued. "I don't want Audrey to go through the same ordeal. I have something here to ensure that doesn't happen," Neil declared, handing Gavin some papers. "What are these?" Gavin asked. "Divorce papers. Gavin, so Audrey can finally be free from the toxic influence of both of you," Neil revealed calmly. Meg and Gavin were stunned. They started arguing loudly with Neil, pleading with him to reconsider. Neil stood firm, telling them they deserved the consequences of their actions for trying to harm someone innocent like me. He then called hospital security to escort Meg and Gavin out of the room, and they were removed. I had been through a lot, but finally, I had my justice. Neil and I maintained a strong